All right, we're going to look back at our predictions on breakout prospects, both at the plate and on the mound from before the season. Some good ones, some bad ones, as always, and a lot of fun conversation that comes with it. Of course, I'm Aram Layton. He's Jack McMullen, and this is the call up. We have some more Arizona Fall League talk. I wanted to get it in on this episode as well, but it's just not going to be enough time here where I think we want to talk about all of these breakout prospects, the good and the bad, and recap it. But we'll follow up later this week. A new batch of AFL notes. If you can't wait, that's linked in the episode description. A lot of fun things there. Kemp Alderman popping a 119.5 out of the Marlins system. I mean, that's insane. That's the highest EV in Arizona Fall League history. That just edged out Eloy Jimenez by a decimal point. You had Eric Swan from the Dodger system shoving all of a sudden, a guy that usually struggles to throw strikes, throwing strikes. That looked really impressive. And then some just tidbits on Jack Caglione and some of the frustrations I saw there, how I think the Giants should handle Bryce Eldridge. All of that good stuff is linked in the episode description. So check out that article, and then we'll talk more about that later this week. But we're here to talk about the predictions that we had before the season, the breakouts on the mound and at the plate. Unsurprisingly, I think we did a little bit better. I think I definitely feel like I picked better hitters, but there's some good arms in here too, and I think it's going to be fun. You set the rundown, like the order of which we're going through these players, and I took it personally where you wanted to start this episode. I'm a believer in setting the tone, and it was very clear that you wanted to set the tone in a humbling manner on this episode.
Yeah, so what I think you're doing right now is you're creating a narrative in your head that does not exist, because I literally just took the order that we talked about them on the initial breakout episode. So this guy that we're going to talk about first was your first name in minor league baseball that came to your mind when you thought breakout prospect for this year. So this ain't my order, pal.
See,
this is your order.
You're making it worse right now. You said this is the first name you ever thought
of.
No,
I said, who's your breakout for 2024? You said this guy, no doubt.
This number one. This is what you do. You create the narratives. I gotta fight back a little bit here. But yeah, this was the first name I put there. So that one is on me. You could have reordered it if you actually cared about my well-being. But
I don't. So I didn't.
So Braylin Tavera, let's start there.
Okay. Braylin Tavera of the Baltimore Orioles. Tell you what, he was first team all eye test at spring breakout. You said, look at this cat. And I was like, wow, I get it. Breakout City. Population Braylin Tavera. He's listed at 6'3", 175. He's probably 6'4", 230 of like solid muscle right now. 19-year-old in the DR. You loved him after 35 games at the complex rate, an 812 OPS. He stole 13 bags. He kept the K rate in check. He showcased some power. This year, 87 games, 3 at the complex, 84 in low A. I'll just give you the low A numbers. 84 games, he slashed 173, 296, 213. That's a 509 OPS. In 355 plate appearances, this guy had 8 extra base hits. Silver lining, he swiped 27 bags. But for this guy to look like he does and hit 1 homer in 84 games is confounding. Like, I don't get it. But, L, how do you feel?
Yeah, that's got it. So this is what we're getting the worst one out of the way for sure here. And look, I do still think that, something can click for him going into next year. He still is just 19 years old. I do know some people bought cards off of that breakout pick. So I've apologized in the bonus episodes for that one. But it's tough off the complex. And I think it's always great to get these opportunities to like look back and, obviously I want to see Tavera succeed, but having this opportunity to look back and say, okay, what was I overestimating? What was I underestimating? Maybe what did I overvalue? What did I undervalue? What's interesting is like, he didn't chase much.
Yeah.
His contact rates were above average and the EVs were fine. I don't really like, I watched the ABs. It was a lot of like just iffy swing decisions, even though the chase was low. And then also I think his swing path, it started to become very flat to the point where like, even though the ground ball rate wasn't that high, his hardest hit balls at best were just going to be like low line drives. So put him in a position where he just, even when he was getting his best swing off, he was kind of capped at a single, like a hard hit single. And that's why we only saw 8 extra base hits. This average hard hit launch angle was 5.5 degrees. Like you want to be almost triple that. So I think that was the big issue. But it's one of the weirder batted ball profiles I've ever seen. Generally, you have a hard hit launch angle, below 10 degrees, you're going to have a high ground ball rate. You didn't have a high ground ball rate. So it just seemed like a lot of soft, low line drives when he was barreling it and a lot of iffy swing decisions. But it's just a bizarre year all around. I like struggling to really understand what happened there. But if you did buy cards, like you might as well sit on him at this point. Yeah. He's 19. He'll get a second taste of low A. He finished the year with the best game of his season where he finally hit his home run and had 3 hits. But this was just a point blank, just mega miss here. And he definitely did not break out.
Again, he's only 19 years old. So it's like there's plenty of time here. But in terms of prospect pedigree, it's like it's not entirely gone.
No, but, not entirely gone, but definitely took a substantial hit. I think seeing the athleticism, as you mentioned, the stolen bases and things like that, and you see how big and physical he is. Like this is a guy that you're still going to, hope can put it together.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's definitely like more of instead of, hey, let's see if he can ascend to a top 10 prospect in the system. It's, hey, let's see if he can maintain prospect relevancy next year, which is an entirely different story than, what we were probably expecting, what I was probably expecting.
Yeah. You mentioned before we started recording the episode that we're playing Boom or Doom. And, that was the first like L, quote unquote. This is certainly a W. And I don't think that's up for interpretation. Cole Carrigg of the Colorado Rockies is the next guy. Carrigg this year, 111 games with High A Spokane, /280, 358, 475. That's an 833 OPS. This guy in 111 games, 16 doubles, 16 homers, 11 triples. He swiped 51 bags in 62 attempts, and he kind of sort of played all over as well. Carrigg is clearly a top 10, like confirmed top 10 prospect in that Rockies organization. He's probably higher than that. I just don't want to set like this arbitrary number like, oh, he's for sure top 7.
Yeah.
Definitely top 10. And Carrigg is a big win for Mr. Layton.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool to just kind of see him be exactly what we were discussing, right? Where it was, okay, the defensive ability in center field and also being able to plug into shortstop is really fun. But then what's that offensive profile going to look like? How much power can he tap into? The dude actually tapped into some power this year. And I think that was a fun thing to see. You mentioned the triples, but how about the fact that, he was hitting homers too? Yeah. He was getting into it to the pull side. Like that was fun to see. He's going to swing and miss a little bit within the zone, but then he's able to just battle with 2 strikes and keep the strikeout rate in check, only punched out at a 19% clip. I mean, all in all, I thought this was a really impressive season from Cole Carrigg, who, I don't think came with a ton of prospect intrigue. I think started to build some excitement up with the early looks that we got last year. But remember, this was a guy that was catching still some. Like they had him catching a little bit in low A last year. He was catching, playing shortstop, playing center. Like he's a very dynamic player. This year it was predominantly center with a little bit of shortstop, but as a switch hitter to add in the 17 home runs to do what he did and walk at a decent clip as well. Do we know how many bags he had? Did you mention
51 that? 51 and 62 attempts.
Yeah, that's a lot of bags. So, I mean, from a fantasy perspective, this is definitely a breakout prospect as well.
Yeah. Next guy is Walker Martin of the San Francisco Giants. You mentioned Carrigg, struck out a little bit more than you may expect with that profile. Walker Martin, do you have the percentage in front of you? I know 312 plate appearances and 128 strikeouts this year. 44 games at the complex /229, 413, 382 there. That's a 795 OPS. Got off the complex for 25 games with San Jose. Had a 691 OPS. He hit 202, but a very high OBP at 358 relative to that 202 clip. He had 8 homers. He did swipe 6 bags. There were some things to be excited about. Having said that, he is an older guy at the complex in low A that struck out as much as anybody in minor league baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he finished the year pretty well from like a production standpoint. And, he started to see the homers trickle in a little bit more in low A. But I mean, this was a miss. I'll just get in front of that because he swung and missed way too much. I was not expecting that much whiff, to be honest. And he has dealt with a lot of injuries since going pro. I mean, we remember the where's Walker Martin, where's Walker Martin, where's Walker Martin. Then finally we see him, and unfortunately, like everything looked out of whack. He was probably one of the most popular breakout picks, I think, amongst the prospect community and the prospect analyst community, and for good reason. I mean, this is a guy that got a lot of money. That was in an underscattered area in Colorado, and somebody that I think a lot of people were very excited about. And I mean, you look at the swing from the left side, you look at the explosion and the athleticism and the strength, and like, there's a lot to love. He has absolutely pulverized some balls this past season, and he ran a 90th percentile exit velocity north of 106 miles per hour. But I just was not expecting him to be this feast or famine power bat that he's kind of looking like his best case scenario may be, especially as you mentioned the age. I don't like to put limits on guys, but I mean, he's going to be 21 years old to start next season, and all he's going to have under his belt is, 30 low A games, if that, a little bit less than that. So it's surprising. Hopefully he can build on it. Obviously the competition in Colorado ain't the best. And like, he obviously got a late start to his professional career in general, but I was not expecting this much swing and miss. So it's going to be interesting to see how he bounces back, if he bounces back next year. But this will probably, unfortunately, be filed under the miss department.
Yeah, but could anybody have expected this much swing and miss?
No, I don't think so.
He's a high school guy. Like, I feel like high school guys, you're projecting like ample swing and miss, especially from high school shortstops. I get it when you look at, Xavier Isaac went in the first round as a high school first baseman. Casas went in the first round as a high school first baseman. Now, both those guys seemed advanced in the hit tool department at time of draft, but I could see trying to put them into a bucket of, hey, you're a big high school kid, you're probably going to run into whiff issues. You typically don't do that with 19-year-old high school draftees that are playing shortstop.
Yeah, especially, it's like being that left-handed hitting shortstop, you kind of almost talk yourself into the profile a little bit more. And that might have been exactly what happened there. We just didn't have a lot of examples of him playing against, top level competition. And what I was able to see, he held his own in those small samples. So that's why amateur scouting can be so difficult. And then not being able to see him really play much at all professionally up until this year, really not playing at all, kind of, I think, helped facilitate the excitement around him, but also I think made it even more difficult to properly assess what it all may look like. So very interested to see how he comes back next year, because clearly he's going to need to make, I think, a pretty substantial change in the box to be able to make enough contact.
Yeah, not a draft guy, an IFA guy here. I'm curious where you stand on Ramon Ramirez of the Kansas City Royals, because Ramon Ramirez was awesome in the DSL in 2023. 41 games, a 1055 OPS. He was amazing. 18 Ks and 150 plate appearances. He had 8 homers. He comes back this year, 49 games at the complex. He has an 838 OPS, 265, 379, 459 slash. He had 7 homers, drove in 33, and he kept the K rate in check again. It was in, I think, the low 20s, like very low 20% K rate. Give the analysis first, and then I don't know. I'm curious whether you think this is, a win or a wait and see or a loss.
Yeah, I think it's like, it's a weird one because he did everything pretty well this year. I think like it was a good year. I think there was a level of me kind of thinking, okay, this guy could get to low A. Like he could light up the complex and get to low A, but he's also a kid that was in his age 18 season catching. And it's very clear that the Royals, want to develop him as a catcher, and the bat is the primary here. So it was clear that was a focus for him. He was swinging and missing a little bit more in the beginning of the year, and then down the stretch really seemed to have things click. His final 25 games, he walked more than he struck out. He launched 6 home runs and posted a 937 OPS. So I think just seeing him settle in and get better and better as the year progressed as a defender, but then also offensively, I think there's a lot to like there. And I mean, 18 years old, popping 109 mile per hour home runs, 450 plus feet. Like everything is still the same for me in terms of my, opinion on Ramon Ramirez. So I don't know if he like fully broke out, so to speak, but I mean, he had another really solid year at the next level for him, and got better and better as the year progressed. So it might not be a full-fledged breakout, but he's still heading in that direction that I expected him to. Maybe just like a tick slower, but not really much. Especially after the way he finished the year.
It feels like a wait and see with the opportunity, honestly, to be a breakout in the truest sense next year.
Yes.
It feels like, hey, he's still technically a candidate to be a 2025 breakout.
Which is classic with catchers, right? Like I think you can be a year early on catchers pretty often, but I mean, he ran a chase rate at 20%. He had a 90th percentile of 105 miles per hour this year. And again, got better and better and better as the year progressed, closing it out with, that OPS well over 900 in his final 25 games with more walks and strikeouts is always a good sign for, next season, where he's probably going to start his age 19 season in low A. I think that's going to be a fun test for him.
Yeah. This guy gets 5 big booms. Zyhir Hope of the LA Dodgers. We have talked about this guy a lot so far with the Arizona Fall League and how he's done. So we'll keep it short and sweet. This is a huge win. 61 games, 54 of them coming in Rancho. In those games in low A, this guy had a 905 OPS, and all he does is show up to Glendale in the Fall League and mash again. He's firmly top 30 prospect in baseball at the end of season update.
Yeah, he's going to be in that top 30, no doubt about it. Look, we had him as a breakout. We talked about the power, we talked about the speed, we talked about just the approach and everything that could be there. And I think he still even exceeded expectations, in every single way. And you mentioned what he's doing in the Fall League already as well with the 3 home runs. If you combine the Fall League now, and he was hurt this year, that's the craziest part is he misses time with injury, and he still is a no doubt winner in terms of picking the breakout there, because in his 64 games, he showed enough to totally shift, I think, the industry perspective on him. And we talked about it, I think, in that episode where I was like, I think this guy could very easily be a consensus top 100 prospect at the end of the year. He has to be a consensus top 100 prospect going into next season. I think if Zyhir Hope is not on a top 100 list, and I don't like to make those definitive because it's up for interpretation for anybody.
It's wrong.
It's your opinion. I don't want to say that, but if he's not on a top 100 list, I would really like to hear the explanation as to why he is not. I understand that he's just in low A at this point, but now doing what he's doing in the Arizona Fall League, like people talk about how offensive friendly the Arizona Fall League is, absolutely. But if you're making the low A leap to the Fall League, it's a totally different beast. And if you're continuing to do what you were doing in low A, I think it only adds to the validity of it all. With the speed and the raw power and the EVs and him getting into it, and he just looks the part. And now the fact that he's playing center, and I think they're very keen on having him develop out there. And I thought he looked fine out there as well. Like I would just implore anyone to make an argument against him being a top 100 guy. So I think this is the breakout of all the names that we're going to talk about. Maybe aside from one or another, but I think it's got to be him.
Now, what if the reasoning is, I just don't believe in the bat? What's your clap back there?
Why? Why?
I just don't believe in the bat.
Yeah, I just don't believe in it. Yeah, I mean, he makes ample contact. The chase rates are tiny, and I mean, we watched the guy. We watched this guy hit the ball 470 feet. I watched him battle left on left and work at 3-2 against a AAA arm and go deep. I mean, it's special stuff here. So yeah, I mean, exceeded even my wildest expectations this year, I think.
I just believe in the bat, man. I do. All right, we are going to get to our next batch of hitters in a moment. Before that, very quick break. Former Cub shed a tear for Zyhir Hope. 2 current Cubs here. Alfonsin Rosario spent the entirety of the year in low A Myrtle Beach. 109 games for Rosario. He had a 767 OPS, 230, 344, 423 slash, 18 doubles, 4 triples, 16 homers, drove in 73 in 109 games. He was also 20 for 25 in the stolen base department. He struck out a lot. K rate was over 30%. Having said that, this is a power speed combo that you don't get very often from a 20-year-old in low A.
Yeah, and this is a guy that made he's making a big leap. I thought it was a good challenge for him. And showed well and extended as well. This is one where I'll defer to you because I think the breakout side of things is relative, right? Where yeah, a guy like Ramon Ramirez probably wanted to see a little bit more because I think most outlets, had him as a top 10, 15 prospect in the system.
Yep.
But an Alfonsin Rosario, like he wasn't top 30 for the Cubs anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if he is now or not, but I would like to think that this season that he had elevates himself in an age 19 season to do what he did from a power perspective. I mean, and the speed, like you said, it's pretty crazy tools. He's going to need to cut down on that whip, but making that leap from high school and kind of getting pushed right into low A, he elevates consistently. And I mean, he hits the living crap out of the baseball. It's pretty crazy how hard he can hit it when everything is on time and he's locked in there. He posted multiple 113 mile per hour EVs. I mean that's big time power with the speed, but you got to cut down from a 32% K rate though at the same time.
Yeah. I will say if I had to pick yes or no, I say yes. Like this was considered a breakout, but this falls into the Ramon Ramirez bucket for me, where he still qualifies as a breakout in 25 as well. It's a wait and see, and it's like you did exactly what we wanted to see. There were some proficiencies, there were some deficiencies there. Now let's see if you can iron out the deficiencies and really take that step up. And frankly, I think it's hard to call somebody that spent the entire year in low A firm breakout, although the numbers were good. And do you have the WRC plus in front of you? Like I would assume in that league, that OPS was firmly over 100 in terms of the WRC plus. I bet it was in the 110s.
Let me see. That's a great question. And yeah, I know. I think again, it's always like the relative to expectations. Like, oh, way over 127 WRC plus.
There you go. So, like, I think if I had to say yes or no, it's a clear cut yes.
But I think it's a push it to next year kind of thing, which is good too. I mean, not every guy's going to like fully hit their ceiling or fully click in the way that we're expecting that year. You always hear like a year early or whatever it may be. Right. Could be the case here, but he also could be very tested to make more contact in high A. He's definitely going to need to make more contact. There's definitely going to need to be a little bit more fluidity to his swing. But I mean, I think everything that we were excited about, he showcased the ability to get into in games. It's just now, can you do it more frequently? And I'm excited to see if he can. The Cubs continue to I think do a really good job in these middle rounds. I mean, he's 6th round pick there. Zyhir Hope was what, a 9th round pick or 11th round pick, one of those rounds. And I mean, you just keep seeing the players that they're picking up in these later rounds. I mean, we just talked about Jonathan Long in the Arizona Fall League notes. That's also in the episode description. Jonathan Long was amazing last year. That was, a middle round pick as well. I think 9th round. So, I mean, the Cubs continue to nail these middle rounds, especially with the bats. And even if these players don't fully pan out, they're capital. And I think have a chance to be good players. And Rosario definitely has a chance to be a good player.
Yeah, another guy that certainly has that chance, although did not show as well as Alfonsin Rosario, is Jefferson Rojas of the Chicago Cubs. And Rojas, 96 games as a 19-year-old in high A South Bend. A slash of 245, 310, 336. That's a 646 OPS, 6 homers, 21 bags. Kept the K rate in check, no doubt. He was on the top 100 coming into the season. I feel like given that, it would probably be like a disappointment relative to what you were hoping. But he was also 19 years old in high A. 646 is not great. Don't get it twisted. But like, I would say the expectations were very high for a guy where the odds of immediate production were stacked against him.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of an unfair expectation for him, maybe, that we put, and just because of how talented he is, where it's like, okay, I think this guy could potentially like be one of the names this year, in minor league baseball. Like he could be one of the guys that really bursts onto the scene. And he didn't, but he also didn't look bad at all. I know the numbers weren't great, but you look at the contact rates, they were quite good. You mentioned keeping the K rate in check, and handling, I think trying to prove that he can stick it short. But I think that's another wrinkle in this thing too. Like, does he ultimately move to second? What does that look like? He's still going to be in the top 100. And I mean, he ran an end zone contact rate at 89% this year. He still walked at a decent clip. He still elevates pretty consistently. I think it was just one of those where he was very much challenged at high A as a guy that just, was 18 at the start of the season. And, I think met that challenge and I think it overwhelmed him at points, but I think it was still an encouraging year enough to where you can look towards next season and say, hey, this might be the year where he fully breaks out. So it is kind of a wait for next year kind of thing, but relative to the expectations and relative to where we already had him, I think definitely was a miss. But I would say in the grand scheme of like the perspective of Jefferson Rojas, aside from this like fun exercise, my perspective hasn't changed too much on him. And I still think he's a top 100 prospect. It just, I think, is going to take a little bit longer maybe than we thought.
Is that okay? That it's going to take a little bit longer? That he's 19 and he'll probably repeat high A to open the year?
Yeah, I think that's just fine.
I think it's okay.
I think he'll be all right. Again, it's hard. It's quite hard.
I'm just wondering, like, okay, you're 19 years old. Shouldn't you be in the fall league after getting to AAA? Because like the guy in San Francisco is doing that.
Yeah, so he should have got all the way up to AAA and then went to the fall league if he was a real prospect.
That's the thing. So like my thought is 19-year-old real prospects should be doing the Bryce Eldridge thing where they're just
I wrote about that in the fall league notes. As well. So I'm glad you plugged that.
You bet. Kevin McGonigle of the Tigers is next. I'd say this guy gets a big doom. He kind of sucked this year. Kevin McGonigle, 74 games between low A and high A. 309, 401, 452 / that's an 853 OPS, 22 for 24 in the stolen base department. This guy, just the raw walk and K numbers, in 74 games, he walked 46 times and struck out 28 times. His first 14 games in high A as a 19-year-old, 57 plate appearances, he struck out 4 times. He's amazing. This was absolutely a breakout. Him and Hope, and I'd say more so McGonigle, was like the breakout of all breakouts.
I mean, yeah, I think Hope, just because him being a middle round pick, made it a little bit more of that like relative to expectation breakout. But I mean, Kevin McGonigle wasn't on top 100 lists. I don't think he was expected to do anything like this. I know we were one of had him on the top 100.
On the top 100, very few. We were one of very few that had him on the top 100.
Yeah, and again, that's not even to say like, oh, pat ourselves on the back. I get why he wasn't on a ton of lists because he's a 5'10", 180-pound, left-handed hitter that's contact oriented and probably ultimately ends up at second base. So you got to believe that bat is a 70 to put him on the top 100. I don't blame anybody for not. It's a very bold I feel super confident that this bat's going to be a 70 or close to it to put him in there. But we really did. And I mean, in terms of, I'm fortunate to be able to see a good bit of him and just felt very confident that bat was going to translate. And it has. I think the other thing that I felt like was underrated with him is the power, where I know he only hit 5 home runs, and that's mostly because it was the Florida State League. But this guy hits a lot of doubles, and he has the potential to hit 15, maybe even 20 home runs as he continues to mature. I mean, he hit a 112-mile-per-hour home run later in the season. I mean, and remember, it's 5 home runs because he only played 74 games because he broke his hamate. And that I think really ultimately was a shame because it cost him almost a full month where I think he could have continued to pile up numbers. He clearly looked like he was settling in quite nicely to high A. I mean, in every facet, this was a breakout year, whether you thought he was a top 100 prospect or not, because now he's a consensus top 50 prospect, if I'm not mistaken. And I think you can make the case that he's as good of a pure hitter as you're going to find in the minor leagues, especially if you pair in the approach. A 5% whiff rate. It's actually 4.8% whiff rate. I mean, that is wild. And then a chase rate that's at 15%. I mean, as this guy grows into a little bit more power, remember we were talking about the peak Daniel Murphy. Mm-hmm. Are you seeing it now? It really, I think that might be one of my favorite comps that we put out in a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely see it. The other thing that jumped out to me was, I don't think we talked about it on this show, but AJ Hinch and Scott Harris sat down for their post elimination press conference. And they were talking about the excitement, and Scott Harris said, AJ Hinch couldn't give less of a crap about like their prospects when he first got there. And now he's giddy with anticipation Hinches for spring training in Lakeland next year. And AJ said, I'm excited to see guys perform in big league camp. I'm looking at you, Max and Kevin and Lorenzo. And like Clark is going to go to big league camp. And I think the tools are going to show. Like he's going to make a diving play in the outfield. It's going to be awesome. Lorenzo is going to show off that howitzer that we just found out he has behind the plate. It's like, whoa.
Yes. And he might run into one where he hits it and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah. But McGonigle's so far and away the leader in the clubhouse of those three to have a really good spring and have Tigers fans be like, why isn't this guy good enough to just be on the team?
he's going to have those ABs where people are going to say, I've seen enough.
Yeah. Yes.
I 100% agree, because that's the kind of guy where I think you could drop him in almost any environment and he's gonna tread water. Obviously, you want to develop him at the right rate so that the power can continue to come out and he can get more comfortable at leveraging his advantage counts and letting it eat to the pull side and tap into that 15 plus home run power. But like, this is a guy that I think if you dropped him in AAA tomorrow, he's battling, surviving, and probably hanging around 100 WRC plus. He might even be better than that, but I have confidence that he would walk enough, put the ball in play, and hit it hard enough to survive. And that's the craziest part is, again, I don't think there's a better hitter than him, just from a pure sense in the minor leagues.
Wow. This guy, Milwaukee Brewer, Yophery Rodriguez, spent the entire year in low A after 52 games in the Dominican Summer League, where he had an 842 OPS in his age 17 season, skips the complex entirely. And in 110 games with low A Carolina, /250, 343, 383. That's a 726 OPS, 23 doubles, 6 triples, 7 homers. He drove in 60. I think this is a clear-cut win. And is he going to be a consensus top 100 prospect coming into the year next year? No, he's not. But this was a guy that I don't want to say was plucked out of nowhere, but it was like, oh, watch out for this guy. And I know you love some of the data points when it comes to Yophery Rodriguez. At the end of the day, this guy's production as an 18-year-old in low A was unmatched.
18 in low A. We know the Brewers like to push their prospects.
Yeah.
But like a 117 WRC plus as an 18-year-old center fielder in low A is wild to me. I really think like the context of that is important. He should have been at the complex, right? Like that's what most players his age would be doing. And I mean, remember, he had a 125 WRC plus at the DSL last year. So to nearly match the WRC plus output while skipping a level and getting into low A and just playing center field every single day, I think this should be a breakout because I think he showed enough to be a top 100 guy across the board. He even got up to high A for 3 postseason games. Obviously, those aren't going to show in like the Fangraphs stat sheet. He picked up 4 hits in those 3 high A postseason games as well. I mean, you saw a little bit of the speed. You see the glove coming along, and I think this is a guy that's going to keep growing into more power. The Brewers have another prospect here where, I mean, a little bit under the radar. They start pushing him aggressively, and all of a sudden, I think people start to get really excited about, what could be here. I love the swing from the left side, and I think that the length of the season wore on him a little bit at the end, which I thought brought the numbers down. But through the first half and a little bit into the second half, he was phenomenal. And then I think we saw him fade a bit at the end of the year, considering he's never played more than 45 games in a season. That's understandable, given he played 115 this year. So I also think that he's going to build on it from that perspective as well, and not fade the same way at the end of the year.
Yeah, a guy that we are stashing for next year, surely, Yoeilin Cespedes of the Boston Red Sox. He was amazing in his first 25 games of the complex. And then he got hurt, right? Yoeilin Cespedes, 25 games. And this is coming off of an age 17 season of the DSL in 23, where he had a 953 OPS, hit 346 with 6 homers. All in all, had 25 extra base hits in 46 games in the DSL. 25 games of the complex. 319, 400, 615 slash, 1015 OPS, 16 extra base hits in 25 games. He K'd 19 times in 105 plate appearances. K rate under 20%. Power that is up there with anybody in terms of 18-year-olds.
which is crazy because he's not big at all either, and he just gets into it.
The only thing that made him not a top, consensus top 100 prospect at end of year updates across the industry was probably just lack of playing time.
Yeah, he just got hurt. I mean, he was in the midst of fully breaking out, I think. I mean, you referenced the numbers, and I mean, even if you look at the last handful of games, he homered like 3 times in a 6-game span before getting hurt. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy's going to hit himself off the complex, and he's going to be, in Salem. It's Low A Salem, right? Am I remembering that in order correctly?
Is it Salem? Salem?
I mix up.
I think it's Salem.
I mix up the Red Sox lower levels for some reason sometimes. But
Greenville is high A. I think Salem is low A. Salem is where I think it's a different Salem because the witch trials were.
Oh, so that's not where they had the witch trials.
I think Salem, Massachusetts is where
that's
they had
one of
the
my
witch
favorite
trials.
things ever. Right? They just like tie you to a boulder, throw you in the water, and if you sink and die, you weren't a witch. And then if you survive somehow, you are a witch. So then they kill you anyways.
It is a pretty good way to find out.
It's
oh shit, we killed the wrong guy. We killed the wrong person. But no, I think the witch trials were in Mass, and then this team is in Virginia.
Okay. Well, that makes it less cool. I would have been more excited to check it out. But regardless, Cespedes should be there. And
witchcraft from him.
Witchcraft. Yeah, we could put so many different. He's going to be tested out there. But I really think he will tread water in Salem, and
it's going to be sink or swim next year, no doubt.
I mean, it was an amazing year up until he got hurt. I do start to wonder if injuries will be a trend here. I think he was a little banged up the year before as well, so just something to monitor. But young as well, like for the level. I mean, he's 8. He just turned 19 2 weeks ago. So it sucks that he lost some time here because he could have been way ahead of schedule. But I'm banking him, and he's going to be. I don't even know if he qualifies as a breakout next year because he's had now 2 incredible stretches at the complex where I think people are very geared up for him to have a big year next year, but we're going to roll him over into next year. I expect him to have a big one.
Yep. Go elsewhere in the American League East. Caleb Durbin of the New York Yankees is a guy that we hit on briefly.
I forgot that we picked him.
Yeah, in one of the AFL recaps. Caleb Durbin, 24-year-old, 14th round pick of Atlanta back in 2021 at a Wash U in St. Louis. Shout out the high academic D3s. But he has hit the ground running in the fall league. 90 games this year, 82 of which with AAA Scranton. So I'll give you the AAA numbers. 287, 396, 471 slash. That's an 867 OPS. I don't think you could call it a breakout because he was in AAA for the entirety of the year.
Could he ever have really been a breakout?
Regardless? I don't think so. But
there is no. I think if I remember correctly, we threw him in there. I was like, I need to just throw Caleb Durbin in here because I love Caleb Durbin. And it was right after we did the Yankee system, and I was like, I just think he's going to have a good year and better than what we expected. And I think he might get up to the big leagues and help the Yankees. That part didn't happen because he got hurt. But I mean, I think this is the relative conversation here, where this guy is not on a single top 30 Yankees prospect list anywhere, not even close, I don't think. He's has a really nice season, and now he's in the Arizona Fall League to either be added to the 40-man roster or to be the number one. He would be my number 1 Rule 5 draft pick. So we'll have to wait and see. If he doesn't get added to the 40, then if he is a top Rule 5 pick, I think that's how it should be decided. Is if this is a win or loss, is if he gets added to the 40. Remember, this is a non-prospect in a lot of people's minds, I think. So either if he gets added to the 40 or if he gets selected in the top 3 picks of the Rule 5, I'll chalk it up as a win.
Okay, deal on that front. I was also thinking it kind of feels like you were betting on Caleb Durbin to be Ben Rice, and then Ben Rice just turned out to be Ben Rice.
Yeah, and Durbin can't play first base, unfortunately, because he's 5'7". So they just didn't really have a specific opportunity for him, and it didn't quite work out there. It's kind of, I think he could fill that Oswaldo Cabrera role, and I think if they wanted to just have something very similar and cheaper, I think Durbin can do that. The fact that he did what he did in, I think it was 89 games he played this year. He hit 10 home runs too. He ran a 90% end zone contact rate. He walked more than he struck out. But doing it at second base, third base, shortstop, left field, this guy plays everywhere. I think he's the prototypical utility guy, and I think he's going to have a nice big league career. I still stand by that.
I can't wait to mock so many trades for Oswaldo Cabrera leaving New York this offseason.
I'm taking the over career WAR for Caleb Durbin. I'm going to take over 8 career F4 for Caleb Durbin.
Okay.
I might go. I almost want to go double digits, but that might be a little reckless.
Wow. Yeah, it feels a little reckless. I was going to set it at 6.5, but you're a firm over 6.5 F4?
Firm over 6.5 career WAR for Caleb Durbin.
All right. Good. More or less than Vidal Brujan over the course of his career?
More. Sure, more. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Last hitter that we're going to talk about is a Tampa Bay Ray, Colton Ledbetter. This is an interesting one because he was a second-round pick in 2023, and Ledbetter was awesome. OPS over 1,000 at Mississippi State. 21 games, he hit the ground running in pro ball last year. This year, Ledbetter in 109 games slashed 273, 339, 484. That's an 822 OPS. 23 doubles, 6 triples, 16 homers. Drove in 65. He was 34 for 41 in the stolen base department. I say yes. I think this is a breakout. The thing is, he's like the 8th or 9th guy in the Rays organization if I were to like power rank the breakouts this year. Because like Carson is clear cut, I think, number 1. Chandler Simpson is a clear cut number 2. And then you've got guys like Aiden Smith and Brody Hopkins that both came back in the Arozarena deal. You've got Trey Morgan who broke out. Like, there are so many guys here, and you forget that Ledbetter had an 822 OPS in high A.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think the way that he finished the year, though, and also if you add in the postseason games, and I think I like to add it in when guys go like crazy in the postseason. Yeah. That's exactly what Ledbetter did in the 5 postseason games for Bowling Green, where in those 5 games, he was 8 for 21 with 4 doubles and 3 stolen bases and 2 walks. So if you add those in, that puts him at like an 831 OPS on the season. But like just closing out the year, his final 50 games, he hit 304, 365, 514. It's 878 OPS. Struck out less and less as the year progressed too, which was nice to see. He's got to be more selective. I think there's a few different things that we need to see improve, but the power was clearly there. The speed was clearly there. I think he's a very dynamic player that he reminds me a little bit of Josh Lowe. I think he could be very similar to Josh Lowe if all things go right. Is it a breakout if he's a second-round pick and he plays the whole year in high A? Like, kind of no, but it also can't be a miss at the same time, right? Because I still think he exceeded expectations. So like, might leave that up to the listener. If you want to give us a thumbs up or thumbs down on that in the YouTube comments, or let us know on Twitter. I think I'll leave that one up to you. But I mean, slugging 488, if you include the postseason games, like that's a pretty high slug for a guy that also stole as many bags as he did.
No doubt. No doubt. We're going to wrap with pitchers. Before that, we will take one more break. Score 1 for the SEC. Blake Burkhalter of the Atlanta Braves is our guy. And Burkhalter, 2022, 46 innings out of the Auburn bullpen, 71 Ks, 7 walks at a 3.69 ERA. Atlanta took him in the second round in 22. He missed all of 2023. He blew out, right? It was Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
And then 24, he comes back as a starting pitcher. He did not start a game at Auburn. He made 16 starts this year between the complex 2 starts and then 14 starts in Rome. I'll give you the high A numbers for Burkhalter because it was 2 starts, 2 1/3 innings. In high A Rome, 69 2/3 innings at a 2.71 ERA across 14 starts. He K'd 8 hitters per 9. He walked just over 2 hitters per 9. I don't know if it's a breakout because he's not making any. I mean, he's nowhere close to a top 100 list, I don't think. Yeah. But like that Braves system is not that good. I think he's firmly a top 10 prospect in that Braves organization. And I think when you talk about the pitching coming through the Braves organization right now, obviously you go to an Owen Murphy, who's unfortunately on the shelf at this point. You go to a Smith Shawver, you go to a Hurston Waldrop. I think Burkhalter is right there behind that trio.
Yeah, you got J.R. Ritchie probably just ahead, and then I think Burkhalter's right there, and you have also, who am I forgetting? One more, Hackenberg.
Drew Hackenberg, yeah.
Drew Hackenberg. He had some. I think Burkhalter and Hackenberg are like kind of in that range, where it's like that next tier of guys where it's like they might be overlooked a little bit, but how do you rule these guys out in terms of, I think they could very easily be big league arms in some capacity. Burkhalter showing that he could do it as a starter off of TJ and doing what he did. I mean, picking a breakout guy off of TJ, like they're not really going to ever be able to fully break out. But I think in the sense of what he was able to do, and like within his limitations, I think it was pretty darn impressive, man. I mean, opponents did not swing it very well against him at all. He didn't walk anybody, which is particularly amazing to see off of TJ. And I mean, the cutter is just gross. The four seamer gets swing and miss, and then he mixes in a slider and a changeup occasionally as well. Like, I don't know if it's, starting every fifth day type of outlook, but I know for sure that this is going to be a big league arm if he stays healthy. And I think that's elevated from where he was before. What round was he selected in again?
I think it was second round, but he was like the top reliever off the board.
And they just make him a starter. Like, it's not a full-fledged breakout, but it's definitely at least a wait and see for next year.
For sure. Next guy's a Boston Red Sox, and this is a wait and see for 2026. Luis Perales. Yes, like clear cut, yes. 33 2/3 innings this year for Perales, a 2.94 ERA. He K'd 56 and walked 12 in 33 2/3. Problem is, Tommy John surgery. We're not going to see him at all next year in all likelihood, and he'll be back at the start of the 2026 season. He is so far and away the best pitching prospect in the Red Sox organization. 21-year-old in Double-A this year, looked amazing in his first two starts in Portland before blowing out.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I was ready to get reckless with the rankings of Perales with the fastball. I mean, just the life on his fastball and that slingshot delivery at 97, 98. He ticked up 2 ticks, I think, this year. The strike throwing, though, right? That was the thing. Like we're waiting for Perales to be in the zone more often. Yeah. And I mean, he walked 12.5% of hitters last year. He walked just 8% of hitters this year. You mentioned the strikeout rate being what it was as well. Like cutter, splitter, slider, all of those pitches were strikes for him this year at over a 67% clip. Like this dude, assuming all is the same when he comes back, I think he has the chance to be a monster. So he's still just 21 years old. But this was a breakout in every sense before the injury. And that splitter from that release point is disgusting over the top like that with the fastball flying up off of it. He's a top 100 prospect without a doubt if he's healthy. And I'm excited for him to get back because I think now with the Red Sox, where they're at in terms of pitching development, this is going to be, I think, a piece for them for a long time.
He lacks the physicality of this guy. I don't want to, say this is apples to apples, because he's not 6'8", 260, 270, whatever he is. But the fastball splitter combo is like, it's shades of Felix Bautista, because Bautista does it from such an over-the-top slot, and it takes off, and it stays on plane. And then the split comes off of that, and like the vertical break on that is emphasized because of the arm slot, because of the delivery, because of what the fastball does.
It's that like overlay would be outrageous where it's just like you have one that looks like it's ascending and then another that looks like it just drops out of the sky. Yeah. How the hell do you prepare for that? And then we talked about it, I think, when we did the Red Sox episode in the off season. It's like, okay, north-south, he's dominating. Can he give us a little east-west? And he did. He has the cutter and he has a slider all of a sudden, which he mixed in 14% of the time.
And if he didn't give you the east-west, he's still a breakout. But the fact that he gave you the east-west proves that he can be a starting pitcher. And do not for a moment think that I'm saying, oh, imagine if Felix Bautista was a starter. Because that's not the case here. But I'm just saying the fastball splitter template is disgusting. And he is, I think Bautista is the gold standard of how that works.
Yeah.
Next guy is a Colorado Rocky. Sean Sullivan was first team all MILB for us at Just Baseball. Yes, breakout. Yeah. Weird wins. 22-year-old was second round pick last year. Sullivan this year, 115 innings at a 2.11 ERA. He struck out 125. He walked 15 in 115 innings, and he sat 74 with his fastball.
87.4. Which is just nuts. 87.4 with the fastball, yet he had a 77% strike rate, a 26% in zone whiff rate, and a 16% overall whiff rate, and opponents at 223 against it. If you're a righty, you were even worse off against his fastball, which it makes sense when you see the delivery because you just can't separate it from the changeup. But it's just wild to me that righties hit 181 against an upper 80s fastball. Lefties hit actually a little bit better against it, which is the craziest part. His fastball changeup combination, it's totally different from what we were just talking about with the over the top. Now you have this like weird arm action and cross-body delivery where it looks like it's coming from first base and you can't see the ball until it's halfway there. And then sometimes it stays up and other times it drops like crazy, almost with a little bit of like a screwball action there. Nobody hit the changeup either. And then he started to mix in a curveball as well. I mean, his worst outing of the year, this was his worst outing by far. 6 innings, 6 runs, 7 strikeouts. Other than that, he did not have a single outing this year where he gave up more than 3 earned runs. And he only had 3 outings this whole season where he gave up more than 2 earned runs. That's just an insane year.
Yeah.
Another wild stat, only 3 outings where he walked more than 1 batter.
Jeez.
Yet he was going 5+ in almost every single outing. And he gave us a complete game this year. Like
innings eater in high A year after you're drafted is wild.
And I mean, if he finds, I keep saying it, I don't know if it's going to happen. We'll see how he comes back next year. If he finds a couple ticks, like if he's back to 89, 91, I don't even know what that's like. It's going to be a problem for hitters. Like he's going to be a dude. So if he can just get to 89, 91, like he could be a dude.
I feel like that's not a tall ask, but I have no idea.
No, he's 6'4", 200. If he can find that, I mean, he was low 90s in college. So if that comes back, whew.
But I wonder if he got a little bit weirder. Like, I wonder if he got more crossfire. Like, I don't know if you have the release plots from when he was at Wake versus when he was a Rocky.
Yeah.
Like, if it's identical, I get it. But I wonder if he just leaned into the weird and was like, yeah, I can get away with 87.
Yeah. I don't. That'll be a fun thing to see. But man, if he gets a tick or two, even it's good night. I think. Like see ya in October.
No, yeah, fire me up. Ty Floyd is a Cincinnati Red. We will probably not be seeing him in Red October, but in the Midwest, not out on the East Coast. Ty Floyd, like he was a breakout choice because he K'd 120 in 91 innings at LSU, and that fastball is bizarre. Problem is shoulder surgery at the end of May. Have no idea when he's going to make his way back. So this is the TBD of all TBDs when it comes to breakouts because we didn't get a single pitch of Ty Floyd.
Yeah, we haven't seen him since he struck out 17 in the College World Series against the University of Florida. And by the way, he threw 122 pitches in that outing. He had never thrown more than 113. There's a lot of pitches to throw and very intense, high leverage. Hopefully he comes back and he's healthy. I mean, this is like a Bryce Miller type of fastball. So, I mean, I'll bet on that any day of the week. Like that, those fastballs are just going to perform, especially in the mid 90s. So it's just about health for Ty Floyd.
Yep. Couple more prep arms. These were 2, I think, projects coming into the year that we might have thought were a little bit farther along. We'll start with Cole Schoenwetter, who is also a Cincinnati Red. Schoenwetter, 4th round pick of the Reds last year at a high school in Santa Barbara. 52 1/3 innings between the complex and low A. A 6.54 ERA. Yeah. He walked 7 per 9, and I think the batting average against him was about 285. It was really not good. So it's not a good breakout. Do you have faith? Like, was there anything there that is like, yeah, this could turn around? Because the numbers are like very not good.
Yeah, very not good. Just turned 20. I think that there's still some things that can come together. Like there's some decent whiff numbers. But I mean, I watched that delivery out of high school and I'm like, okay, that looks smooth, repeatable. Like he should be able to throw strikes. And I don't know what the heck happened. I don't have much other than the fact that, I was expecting a little bit more life on the fastball. That seemed subdued and just the command wasn't there at the secondary. So he just kind of got teed off on with the fastball and the rest was kind of history. But the command overall just being as bad as it was pretty surprising. So I think there's still time and I still think he can be a decent arm. But yeah, clearly a swing and a miss there on my part.
So is this guy a swing and a miss yet? Alex Clemmey of now the Washington Nationals, who was part of that Lane Thomas deal along with Jose Tena. Clemmey was a guy that I loved. He made 19 starts with Lynchburg, 69 1/3 as a Guardians farmhand at a 4.67. Then his final 6 starts of the year came with Fredericksburg, spent the entire year in low A, had a 4.3 there. So you combine all the numbers. High school lefty from the Northeast in his first pro season throws 92 and a third innings.
Yeah, it's a lot of innings.
Number one, holy shit. Number two, a 4.58 ERA. He K'd 12 per 9, but he walked 6 per 9. Alex Clemmey was not getting beat often. A 207 batting average against. Alex Clemmey was beating himself often with the walks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just think it's going to continue to be a problem. So I would probably say it's a miss, because ultimately, when you're throwing that hard and that you're that funky from the left side, like you should be, if you're going to break out, like you're going to have a monster year from a strikeout perspective. And I think, be able to keep the walks at least enough in check. And, I think turn in some better outings overall. The challenge was that, yes, he still kept opponents, at a low batting average and things like that. But, he's going to walk the bases loaded and then fall behind or something. And then he's got to go back to that fastball, which I just don't think is performed as well as, you may expect. We talked about that, right? Yep. Where the release is not quite, it looks funkier than I think it is. Like it looks funkier to the fan in the seats or watching than I think it does to the hitter in the box, which is not what you want to see. So I think that's the big problem. The slider's elite. Like that is a 70 pitch, but that's the pitch right now. So like I came away from this year looking at him as a reliever. And if that's, he's got time. You mentioned the Northeast cold weather arm, still just 19, and he'll be 19 until the middle of next season. But the fact that I kind of look at him as a reliever now, I'd say it's probably a miss.
Gotcha. Next guy is Shohei Ohtani with the New York Mets. Nolan McLean spent the year between high A Brooklyn and double A Binghamton. 60 games, 143 plate appearances. He slashed 192, 266, 446. He had 8 homers and 143 plate appearances.
I didn't think he was going to hit at all. So I like that honestly hurt the pitching side of the breakout. I think
712 OPS, man. Holy crap. But McLean, 109 and 2/3 innings this year, 25 starts between high A and double, a 3.78 ERA. He K'd 9.5 per 9. He walked 3.5 per 9. And he kept the opposing base hits, like the opposing batting average was pretty low for McLean. This was so far and away the most taxing year in minor league baseball. If you get 143 plate appearances and you throw 110 innings, holy smokes.
I don't know why they're still letting him hit. I just don't understand. Like, I get it. He can run into homers, and that's impressive. I thought that from what we saw in the backfield and everything, like, just let this guy pitch and just have him pitch only. So the fact that he fully did both the majority of the year, like that definitely made things very difficult on the mound. I'm with you. Like 109 and 2/3 innings on the bump while also hitting is wild. And they've pushed him pretty aggressively, right? Like this is somebody that was drafted last year and was injured, for much of his pitching side of things, and at Oklahoma State, like hasn't had a lot of innings under his belt, and they thrusted him straight to double A where I literally after a handful of outings in high A straight to double A where I thought he more than held his own. So I don't know if it's like a full-fledged breakout, but like he clearly, I think, solidified his prospect status some. And which interesting wrinkle in this is like he could be a power bat off the bench maybe if they want to keep riding this thing out offensively. Like he did better than I thought he would in terms of offense. Like he swung and missed a bunch, and that's the reason why I was like, I had like a 20 on the hit tool there. But he hits the crap out of the baseball. Like he hit a home run 113 miles per hour this year. So like he might be a power bat off the bench if the bench is fully depleted as well. Like it's a really interesting situation there. But yeah.
Is this just who Michael Lorenzen wanted to be?
Yeah, but like I think Lorenzen might have been better at it. He struck out 52% of the time, Nolan McLean.
McLean did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like was Lorenzen better at it?
Just have him pitch.
Yeah,
that's pitch. It. But I don't know. Full-fledged breakout, probably not, but is it like a wait and see? Where do we label this one?
I guess it's a wait and see, but he also like spent the majority of the year in double A.
Pretty impressive.
Okay, 60% breakout.
Yeah, I'll give it like a 50, 60. Yeah, I'll say it's a wait for next year kind of thing.
Okay, fair. But he, if you were to start from scratch and do a Mets top 5 prospects, is he in the top 5 or no? Because it'd be
Like,
Sproat.
he's a better pitching prospect than Vassell, Hamill at this point.
Tong is a better pitching prospect.
Tong's a better pitching prospect. Tong broke out, right? Like, yeah, I'd say it's a no, but he had a nice year.
Okay. Yeah, but he is like for sure top 10. I bet he's in the 6 or 7 range.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay. 3 more guys. We go to a different borough. The New York Yankees recently learned that it's not Henry Lalane, it's Henry Lalane. 6'7", 210, 20-year-old lefty. Lalane, I dare you to find what his injury was because Google didn't tell me for about 15 minutes. I have no idea what he was hurt with, but 12 1/3 innings this year. He was limited to 12 1/3, 6 1/3 ramp up at the complex, and then 6 in low A. 12 1/3, 9 hits, 9 earned runs. He walked 9, K'd 13. I can't take away anything from this.
No, and I it sucks because I really felt confident that he was going to, I think, really stand out. I don't like to speculate on injuries, but if you're gonna keep it that close to your vest, usually teams that keep it close to their vest, it usually tends to be shoulder over elbow. And when you're seeing 95 last year, 94, 95 last year, and then this year it was 92 first outing in 25 innings, 93 or 25 pitches. 25 pitches, he was at 93. And then by the time he made his final appearance in October, or excuse me, in August, sorry, he averaged 89.5 miles per hour with the fastball.
Boy.
So I don't know what's up. Maybe it was something else that's affecting the velo, but usually when you see a guy throwing and the velo is just way down, it could be just like a shoulder discomfort thing. Whereas the elbow, it's usually like it just goes and you're done. So that's my guess. And the fact that they're keeping it close to the vest is kind of weird, but it's kind of standard, I guess, at the same time in minor league baseball. But he I think had all of the makings to really break out. But if you can't throw the way that we saw you throw the year before, and that your velo is down 3-4 ticks, it's going to be hard to do that.
Yeah. 2 more guys. They are both buccos. Thomas Harrington of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Harrington in 2023, first year of Pro Bowl, 127 innings at a 3.53 ERA. He started the year on the shelf. Was it shoulder? I think it was shoulder like
it was like a minor shoulder thing.
117 innings, 68 1/3 in Double-A, where he had a 2.24 ERA. Then 8 Triple-A starts, 46 innings, where he had a 3.33 ERA. Struck out just under a hitter per inning, walked 1.5 hitters per 9. We saw this guy get through 7 innings in like 60 pitches in one of his final AAA starts. This is surely a breakout. And he's like firmly in the top 100.
Yeah, he'll be in the top 100, I think.
Yeah, I would think so. Like
the fastball characteristics are just so impressive. The guy just knows how to pitch.
Well, and the thing is, they're getting better too. Like that's the thing that he's working on. Like there are so many guys that want to perfect a secondary. I'm not saying like he has perfect secondary offerings, but he's comfortable enough with his secondary pitches where like his main priority is optimizing fastball shape, like finding the right release and, trying to like gain vert. He's working on his fastball right now, which is wild because that's you see 22-year-olds do.
That's what always endeared, like that's why I always liked him. Like it was the fastball characteristics. So the fact that he's continuing to lean into that is wild. Like that's why we picked him going into this year was low release, high carry, and then a good feel for a split off of that and a slider and kind of the kitchen sink approach from there. I mean to have a 2.63 across every level after starting the year injured. And, 2.61 across every level. After starting the year injured, walking only 4% about it. I mean, the 21% K minus BB rate is wild for a guy that, at his age 22 season got up to AAA for, a good portion of the year. Like it was a lot of his innings were in AAA. So I thought this was without a doubt a breakout for him and a guy that I think is, kind of forcing his way into the conversation for the Pirates as soon as next year. They got a lot of arms up there, but I think a big reason why they were okay with trading a Quinn Priester was probably the emergence of Thomas Harrington, who I think is ready and waiting in the wings as soon as the early part of next season.
For sure. Last but not least, a complex closer 3 saves this year for the 18-year-old from Uganda, David Matoma. Matoma, 22 innings. Opponents hit under 200 against him. In those 22 innings, just 2 earned runs, 2 unearned runs, so 4 runs in total, but 2 earned runs is a 0.82 ERA. Matoma in 22 innings, K'd 28 and walked 9. I don't think we checked on him once, but hey, looks like he shoved.
Yeah, he shoved. I mean, Breakout's relative, right? What did he sign for? $10,000?
I think $10K.
Yeah.
And you put David Matoma in the Pirates, like what, top 10 or top 15? I think he was 15.
I think he was 15 or 14, and people
The
said,
amount
who the hell
of
is
text
that?
that I got was like, who is this guy? Yeah, like that means he's a breakout.
Yeah, I mean, he had a 0.82.
Yeah.
I mean, struck out 30% of batters. Is a $10,000 18-year-old IFA guy that no one had heard of, and we had barely have heard of until we dug into the Pirate system. And then, I mean, you look at the athleticism on the mound from a 6 foot, like 165-pound kid. Like, it's pretty wild. So he's going to be a reliever for sure, I think, at this point. But I think he could be a high leverage one, and they might push him through the minor leagues pretty quickly after the showing you just had at the complex. So I'm excited to see him build off of that. But clearly they weren't going to be too aggressive with him. I think they also wanted to keep eyes on him, given that he throws so hard for such a young and small guy. I mean, he's up to 100 and 101. So I think what we saw from this year, though, is he was pitching a lot more now. Where I was looking at some of the DSL video, it was just, let me throw it as hard as I freaking can. Whereas this year, I mean, he was hitting his spots more, and it was more 96, 97, touching the upper 90s and flirting with 100. But he landed the slider for a strike at a 75% clip. He wasn't doing that at all before. So I think he looked a lot more like a pitcher, and I think we saw the results.
Wow. That's what we got.
All right. Well, let us know if you thought some of them maybe should have been a hit or maybe were a miss, and we upsold it a little bit. But excited to be able to do this again very soon when we get closer to the season. I think the breakouts are always so much fun, and then being able to look back at them. We'll do some other stuff looking back at the season, maybe some like looks at rankings and maybe where we went wrong on some prospects, things like that. We'll continue to do some like retroactive dives and things like that, but we are going to have that end of season update coming pretty soon. We also have more AFL coverage later this week and some more team specific top prospect lists that'll be coming out throughout this off season. A reminder to sign up for our newsletter, which is linked in the episode description. That'll keep you up to date with everything going on in the baseball world, especially during free agency with the rumors, trades, all that good stuff. Everything you'll need to know will be delivered in your inbox twice a week. So I think you'll enjoy that and the AFL stuff as well. As always, thank you for listening. If you could share the show with your friends, help us grow it. Word of mouth is very slept on. Leave a rating if you haven't already. We'd really appreciate it. And we look forward to talking prospects with you later this week.